The Valari trade station floated like a jewel in the black sea of space, its silver hull catching the light of the nearby blue star. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species docked at its ports every day. Inside, the station buzzed with activity. Traders haggling, diplomats arguing, engineers working, and tourists wandering through glowing corridors lined with alien plants. Commander Jack Rains wasn't here for sightseeing. The Human Federation had sent him as part of a delegation to attend a tense peace negotiation between the Valari Kingdom and the Drokan Empire. Both alien powers had been at war for years, and humanity had been asked to help mediate. Jack had been in plenty of tense meetings before. He was a former soldier who had seen battlefields from Earth to the Rim colonies. But these negotiations were different. Here, one wrong word could reignite a war. After hours of dry political speeches in a grand hall full of alien banners, Jack decided to take a break. He slipped out of the meeting chamber and wandered into the station's garden sector. The air was cooler there, filled with the scent of alien flowers. Glowing vines wrapped around crystal pillars, and streams of blue water flowed between stepping stones. Jack took a deep breath and let the tension in his shoulders fade. He noticed he wasn't alone. Standing under a flowering tree with petals that shimmered like gold was a woman, tall, elegant, and undeniably alien. Her skin was a soft shade of silver blue, her hair like strands of glowing silk. She wore a flowing gown embroidered with star patterns. And even though Jack had never seen her before, something about her posture told him she was important. She was reading something on a small holographic tablet, her expression calm and focused. Jack wasn't thinking when he spoke. "Hey, sweetie," he said casually. The woman froze. Slowly, she looked up at him. Her large violet eyes blinked in surprise. And then, she blushed. Her silvery blue cheeks turned a faint shade of pink. "Yes, darling," she replied softly. Jack froze. His brain caught up with his mouth. Wait. What did she just say? The moment was strange, yet oddly warm. They both stared at each other for a second, and then, almost at the same time, they laughed. I didn't mean," Jack began. "It's fine," she said, still smiling. Her voice had a musical tone, like soft chimes. "No one has ever spoken to me like that before." Before, Jack could ask why, a group of tall armored guards rushed over. Their armor shimmered with a purple sheen, and they bowed deeply to the woman. "Your Highness," one of them said in the Valari language, before switching to the human translator device. "Princess Althera, your presence is requested in the council chamber." Jack's eyes widened. "Princess?" The guards turned to Jack, their expressions unreadable. "And you are?" Jack straightened. "Commander Jack Rains, Human Federation Delegation." One of the guards frowned slightly, as if trying to figure out whether Jack was a threat or just an idiot. Before they could speak, Princess Althera lifted her hand. "He is a friend," she said firmly. The guards seemed unsure, but they didn't argue. They escorted her away, the princess glancing back at Jack with a small smile before disappearing into the crowd. Jack stood there for a moment, still processing what had just happened. "I just called an alien princess sweetie, and she called me darling," he sighed. "Well, that's going to get me in trouble." Later that evening, Jack returned to his quarters. His communicator was flashing with incoming messages. Confused, he opened one. It was a news report, and there in the headline was his face and the princess's. "Hey, sweetie," Human Commander's bold greeting to Valari Princess Sparks, interstellar buzz, the video clip from the garden. Sector played over and over. The moment had been caught by a station security camera, and now it was everywhere. Alien news channels, human social media, even memes. Some versions had dramatic romantic music added, others had animated hearts floating around. Jack groaned. "Oh no, The next day, everywhere Jack went, people stared. A group of Drokan soldiers in the mess hall gave him mocking smiles. Two human diplomats pulled him aside, looking panicked. "Jack, do you have any idea what you've done?" one of them hissed. "I said hello," Jack said. "Kind of." "You said, 'Hey, sweetie,' to the Valari princess. Do you know what that means for human-Valari relations?" Jack shrugged. "A friendly start?" The other diplomat groaned. "You've started an interstellar rumor. Half the galaxy now thinks you and Princess Althera are involved." Jack stared. "Seriously?" "Seriously. And the Valari aren't denying it. They're using it to make themselves look more approachable to humans." Meanwhile, on the Valari royal ship docked nearby, Princess Althera sat in her private chamber, scrolling through the same headlines. She smiled faintly. Her chief advisor entered. "Your Highness, should we release an official statement denying this connection?" Althera thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No, let them talk. Perhaps it will make peace easier." "But why did you call him darling?" Althera's smile grew. "Because it was amusing. And," he looked surprised, "no one has surprised me in years." By the third day, the sweetie darling moment had become the single most talked about subject in the station. Merchants sold souvenirs with the phrase printed in both human and Valari script. A Drokan comedian made a comedy skit about it. An alien musician even released a song inspired by the clip. Jack, despite trying to keep a low profile, kept running into people who wanted to take pictures with him. Some even asked him to record messages saying, "Hey, sweetie," so they could send them to friends. Finally, during a scheduled break in negotiations, Jack found himself face-to-face with Princess Althera again, this time in a quiet lounge, reserved for dignitaries. "You again?" she said with a small smirk. "Yeah," Jack said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Listen, about what happened." She raised a hand. "I enjoyed it, and I think you enjoyed it too." Jack hesitated, then grinned. "It was unexpected." They talked for nearly an hour, sharing stories about their worlds. Jack told her about the first time humans set foot on another planet. Althera told him about the Valari custom of naming stars after loved ones. When it was time to leave, she leaned slightly closer. "Until next time, darling." Jack blinked, then laughed. "Until next time, sweetie." Neither of them realized that someone had been recording that exchange from across the room. By the next morning, the second "Sweetie Darling" video was already going viral. And this time, the galaxy started to wonder if it really was just a joke. The Valari trade station had never seen so much media traffic. Holo reporters floated tiny camera drones through corridors, trying to catch a glimpse of the Sweetie Darling pair. Vendors shouted over each other, selling everything from mugs with Jack's face to holographic pins of Princess Althera. Even some of the Drokan warriors, normally the most serious people in the galaxy, were caught laughing at parody videos. Commander Jack Rains hated it. Everywhere he went, there was a drone buzzing in his face. Strangers stopped him in the middle of the hall, asking if he could call them sweetie just once. Valari children giggled and ran past him, repeating, "Hey, sweetie! Yes, darling!" over and over like it was the funniest thing in the world. Jack's fellow human diplomats weren't laughing. Inside a small meeting room, two Federation officials cornered him. Ambassador Laura Mendez, a sharp-eyed woman with a talent for surviving political messes, leaned forward across the table. "Jack," she said slowly, "you have to stop talking to her in public." Jack frowned. "Why?" "Because this is getting out of control," said the other official, a man named Holbrook. "We came here to help negotiate peace between the Valari and Drokan. Now every news channel is treating this like a royal romance. It's distracting everyone." Jack crossed his arms. "Or maybe it's helping." People are talking about humans and Valari being friendly. That's better than talking about killing each other, isn't it? Mendez sighed. Jack, politics doesn't work like that. If we push the wrong image, it could backfire. Half the Valari court likes you, the other half thinks you're disrespectful. Jack shrugged. And what about the princess? Does she think I'm disrespectful? Holbrook muttered. That's the problem. She likes you. Meanwhile, on the Valari flagship star petal, Princess Althera sat in her private chamber watching a stream of human comedy clips. The one playing now showed an actor dressed as Jack, awkwardly trying to speak Valari, while the princess laughed and blushed. Her chief advisor, Lorvin, looked uncomfortable. Your Highness, this situation is creating waves in the royal court. The conservatives are calling it shameful. The progressive factions say it's a sign of hope. It's dividing the council. Althera tilted her head. And which side are you on, Lorvin? Lorvin hesitated. I think you enjoy his company too much to care. She smiled. You are correct. 2 days later, Jack and Althera crossed paths again, this time in the station's diplomatic lounge during a scheduled recess. Commander, Althera greeted, her tone polite, but her eyes playful. Princess, Jack replied, equally formal in voice but smiling faintly. They sat at a corner table, away from most of the curious stares. Althera sipped from a delicate glass of shimmering blue liquid. Jack stuck to black coffee. How's the royal life under the sweetie darling spotlight? Jack asked. She chuckled. Exhausting, but amusing. I never knew the galaxy could gossip so much. Trust me, humans are experts at that. For a while, they talked about harmless topics. Valari art, human music, differences in food. Then Althera's voice lowered slightly. There are those who see us as a political opportunity. Jack nodded. Yeah, I've been told to be careful about talking to you. Apparently, I'm destabilizing galactic diplomacy by saying hello. Althera smiled softly. Then perhaps we should make them even more nervous. Jack blinked. You're enjoying this way too much. But while Jack and Althera were laughing in a lounge, far away in a shadowy maintenance corridor of the station, a very different conversation was happening. 3 figures stood in the darkness, none of them Valari, human, or Drokan. Their species was insectoid, with chitinous armor and glowing red eyes. The leader clicked its mandibles. The human and the princess are gaining too much attention, it hissed in a language no translation device could catch. If the Valari and Drokan make peace, our weapons market will collapse. Another clicked in agreement. We must make sure peace fails, and if that means removing these 2. So be it. The next day, the sweetie darling phenomenon escalated again. This time, someone leaked a private image. Jack and Althera walking side by side through the garden sector, heads tilted toward each other, smiling. It wasn't romantic, just friendly, but the galactic media spun it into a love story. Headlines screamed, "Is this the first human-Valari royal match? Princess Althera. Breaking tradition for a human commander?" Some outlets were supportive, painting it as a beautiful sign of unity. Others attacked it as a dangerous distraction from the real political crisis. Back in the negotiation hall, Drokan delegates made snide comments under their breath. One of them, a tall reptilian warrior with scarred scales, spoke loud enough for Jack to hear. Careful, human. Royal blood is delicate. Too fragile for your kind. Jack kept his cool, though his jaw tightened. I'll try not to break anything, he said evenly, making the Drokan's eyes narrow. Althera, sitting across the table, fought to hide her smile. That evening, Mendez and Holbrook called Jack into another meeting. This is getting dangerous, Mendez said. We've intercepted chatter from unknown groups talking about targeting you. Targeting me? Jack raised an eyebrow. For what? Saying a word? For being a symbol, Holbrook said grimly. Symbols can unite people, but they also make you a target for those who want division. Jack leaned back in his chair. And I'm guessing these people don't just send angry letters. No, Mendez said. They send ships or bombs. 2 hours later, Althea summoned Jack privately. You've heard, haven't you? She asked. That someone's got me on a do not invite to parties list? Yeah, I've heard. Her expression was serious. It is not a joke, Jack. I have been warned as well. They may try to harm us both. Jack looked at her for a moment. Then maybe we should stick together. She raised an eyebrow. For safety? He smirked. And for politics. The next day brought an unexpected twist. The Valari Royal Council publicly announced that Princess Althea would be touring the human sector of the station under the protection of Commander Rains. It was a move that shocked everyone. Drokan delegates grumbled. Human diplomats groaned. Media outlets went into overdrive. But ordinary citizens, both human and Valari, cheered. Walking side by side through the bustling human market section, Jack and Althea attracted a crowd everywhere they went. Children waved. Merchants offered free samples of alien snacks. A group of human marines saluted them with grins. Althea whispered, "Is this always how humans treat public figures?" "Pretty much," Jack replied. "If they like you, they feed you. If they hate you, they still feed you, but with more yelling." But in the middle of their walk, Jack's instincts, honed from years of military service, screamed a warning. He spotted a movement in the upper level of the market. A figure in a heavy cloak holding something metallic. Without thinking, he grabbed Althea's arm and pulled her behind a vendor stall just as a small drone zipped past, firing a thin beam of green energy that scorched the floor where they had been standing. Panic erupted. Citizens screamed and ducked for cover. Jack drew his sidearm, scanning the upper level. The cloaked figure vanished into the shadows. Valari guards rushed in, surrounding the princess. Jack kept his weapon ready, eyes still searching. "You all right?" he asked her. She nodded, though her eyes were wide. "That was no accident." "No," Jack said grimly. "That was a message." Later, in a secure chamber, Jack and Althea reviewed the security footage. The attacker's face was hidden, but the style of the weapon and drone was familiar to Jack. "I've seen this tech before," he said. "Black market, usually in the hands of war profiteers." Althea's voice was cold. "Then they want the war to continue, and we are a threat to them." Jack leaned forward. "If they think this sweetie darling thing is just a joke, maybe we should prove them wrong. Make it something they can't ignore." Althea studied him. "You are suggesting a public alliance," Jack said. "We use the attention to push peace talks harder, force the profiteers into the open." A slow smile spread across her face. "Commander, I think I like the way you think." And somewhere, in the hidden corners of the station, the insectoid conspirators hissed in frustration. "The human and the princess survived," one of them spat. "They will not survive the next attempt," another replied. Their leader's eyes glowed brighter. "Then we will make sure the next attempt happens, during the peace summit itself." The Valari trade station never truly slept. Even in the middle of the night cycle, its corridors glowed softly with bioluminescent lights, and ships continued to dock and depart like stars in constant motion. But tonight, in the human sector of the station, Jack Rains was wide awake, staring at the hollow screen in his quarters. The security feed kept replaying the attack from the market. The cloaked figure, the drone, the green beam scorching the metal floor, and the moment he yanked Princess Althea out of the way. He watched it 3 times before shutting the screen off. He wasn't thinking about the near miss. He was thinking about who sent it. Meanwhile, in her royal chambers, Althea sat in silence, her fingers lightly tracing the rim of a crystal cup. Her guards had doubled in number since the attack, but she knew that would not be enough. Whoever had tried to kill her was skilled and patient. Lorvin, her advisor, entered quietly. "Your Highness, the Council will use this attack to demand you return to the homeworld. They say the station is unsafe." Althera looked up, her violet eyes narrowing. "If I leave now, the peace talks will fall apart." "They care more for your safety than for the treaty," Lorvin said. Althera smiled faintly. "Then it is a good thing I care more for the treaty than for my safety." The next morning, Jack and Althera met in a secure chamber guarded by both human Marines and Valari soldiers. "I know who we're dealing with," Jack said without preamble. Althera tilted her head. "You do?" Jack tapped a small datapad, projecting an image above the table. A dark insectoid creature with red eyes and segmented armor. "Krith Consortium," he said. "They're not a nation. They're a business. They sell weapons to both sides in a war, then sell the same war's reconstruction materials after the fighting stops. They don't want peace. Ever." Althera's expression hardened. "War. Merchants," Jack nodded. "They've worked in the shadows for years, but this is the first time they've gotten this bold." Althera looked at him seriously. "Then we must find them before they strike again." Jack smirked. "That's the first sensible thing I've heard from a royal in a long time." Their plan began quietly. Jack tapped into the Human Federation's intelligence network, while Althera accessed the Valari Royal Informant list. They compared notes, narrowing down possible hideouts on the station. Most were small maintenance tunnels and abandoned cargo, bays, places where official patrols rarely went. But there was one location that stood out, Dock 47B, an unused port on the far end of the station's lower level. The port had been inactive for years, yet the power readings showed occasional spikes, as if someone was running equipment there in secret. That night, Jack and Althera met again, this time dressed for stealth. Jack wore matte black combat gear, his sidearm holstered at his thigh. Althera wore a slim-fitting travel suit, her royal gown replaced with something easier to move in. "I thought princesses didn't do field work," Jack said with a grin. Althera gave him a cool look. "And I thought humans didn't underestimate their allies." They slipped into the service corridors, avoiding the main passages. Jack led the way, using a small wrist device to loop the security cameras. Althera followed silently, her sharp eyes scanning every shadow. Dock 47B was quiet. Too quiet. Dust floated in the air, disturbed only by the faint hum of machinery somewhere deeper inside. They moved forward, stepping over old crates and broken tools. The hum grew louder, and soon they found the source. A hidden door at the back of the dock, its surface disguised to look like part of the wall. Jack crouched beside it, running his scanner over the panel. Encrypted lock, but not a good one. He tapped a few commands, and the panel clicked open. The door slid aside to reveal a dimly lit chamber filled with stacked crates and computer terminals. Strange-looking weapons were laid out on a table, sleek, black, and deadly. Jack recognized them instantly. "Krith Tech," he muttered. Althera moved to one of the crates and pried it open. Inside were dozens of small drones, identical to the one used in the market attack. Her voice was tight. "They are preparing more strikes." Before Jack could respond, a harsh clicking sound came from behind them. They turned to see 3 Krith soldiers emerging from the shadows, their red eyes glowing in the dim light. The first Krith lunged forward with inhuman speed, swinging a bladed weapon. Jack blocked with his forearm, then slammed his elbow into the alien's chest, sending it stumbling back. Althera moved like flowing water, sidestepping another attacker and driving a stun rod into its side. The alien spasmed and dropped to the floor. The third Krith aimed a rifle, but Jack grabbed a nearby crate and tipped it over, using it as cover as green plasma bolts hissed past. He rolled to the side, drew his sidearm, and fired 2 quick shots. The alien dropped with a hiss. "Not bad for a princess," Jack said, breathing hard. "Not bad for a human," Althea replied with a small smile. They quickly searched the chamber, downloading files from the Krith computers. One of the files contained a chilling plan. Target, Peace Summit, Day 5. Method, high-visibility assassination of human commander and Valari princess during joint public appearance. Objective, collapse negotiations and reignite conflict. Althea read it twice before looking at Jack. "They intend to kill us in front of the galaxy." Jack slipped the datapad into his pouch. "Then we have to make sure they fail. And we can't trust anyone else with this. If the wrong person hears, they could be working with the Krith." Althea nodded. "Then it will be our secret." On the way back, they kept to the shadows, avoiding patrols. At one point, they had to press themselves into a narrow alcove as a group of Droken guards passed by. Jack felt the princess's shoulder against his, and for a brief moment, they both caught each other's eyes. "Sweetie," Jack whispered, just to see if she'd react, her lips curved into a tiny smile. "Yes, darling." They both stifled quiet laughter until the Drokan patrol moved on. By the time they returned to the secure chamber, the datapad was already uploading the stolen files to Jack's personal encrypted server. Mendez, who had been pacing the room, stopped when she saw their expressions. "What did you find?" she asked. Jack tossed her a crate's inventory tag. "Proof the Krith are behind the attacks, and a plan to kill us both." Mendez swore under her breath. "Do you know what this means?" "Yeah," Jack said grimly. "It means the Sweetie Darling show just became the Krith's main target." That night, neither Jack nor Althea slept much. Somewhere in the deep metal corridors of the station, the Krith were preparing. And somewhere deep inside both of them, the joking and playful banter was beginning to turn into something else. Something that felt like trust. And maybe even something they didn't want to admit just yet. The Valari trade station was a glittering jewel in space, but Jack and Althea knew it was no longer safe. The Krith Consortium's assassination plan was clear. Kill them both during the upcoming Peace Summit. The files they had stolen in Dock 47B gave more than just the plan. They revealed the Krith's base of operations. It wasn't on the station. It was deep in uncharted territory. "This is risky," Ambassador Mendez said the next morning in the secure room. "That location is far outside our jurisdiction. If you go there, we can't send official help." Jack leaned back in his chair. "If we wait for official help, the Krith will already have set up their attack." Althea's voice was calm but firm. "We cannot allow them to strike first. We must dismantle their operation before the summit." Mendez sighed. "Then you'll need a team you can trust. Mixed crew, human and Valari." Jack smiled faintly. "I already have someone in mind for second in command." Althea raised an eyebrow. "Me, I assume?" "Of course," Jack said. "Sweetie." She rolled her eyes but didn't hide the small smile that followed. "Yes, darling. The mission begins." By the next cycle, they had their team, 6 humans, a mix of soldiers, engineers, and one pilot who claimed she could fly anything. That has thrusters. 6 Valari, disciplined royal guards, and 1 quiet tech specialist named Saren. Their ship was the Silver Gale, a fast corvette with stealth capability. It wasn't designed for heavy combat, but it could slip past patrols without being noticed. Jack addressed the crew in the main briefing room. "The Krith base is located in an asteroid cluster. No official charts, no patrols. They chose it because no one goes there. That's exactly why we will." He pointed to a hollow map showing a field of jagged rocks floating around a dim star. "We get in quiet, disable their weapons, take the evidence, and get out. No heroics unless absolutely necessary." Althea stood beside him, adding, "If we fail, the Krith will have the perfect chance to destroy the Peace Summit. If we succeed, we end their hold on this war. Approaching the Krith territory, the Silver Gale left the trade station without fanfare. Outside the station's traffic lanes, space was silent and endless. Jack sat in the co-pilot seat, watching the star charts update in real time. How long until we reach the asteroid field? The pilot, Lieutenant Mara Voss, didn't take her eyes off the display. 2 hours if we keep full stealth. Any faster and their sensors will pick us up. Althea entered the cockpit, carrying 2 mugs of hot drink. She handed one to Jack. "What's this?" he asked. "A Valari brew," she said. "It will keep you sharp." He took a sip and coughed. "Sharp? This tastes like burning metal." She smirked. "Then it is working." The asteroid field. When the Silver Gale reached the asteroid field, everyone felt the shift. The ship moved slower now, weaving between massive spinning rocks. Mara's voice was steady. "Krith patrol drone at 10 o'clock. Powering down active systems." The lights dimmed. The hum of the engines dropped to a near silence. The crew held their breath as the drone floated past the viewport, its red sensor lights sweeping the dark. Only when it was gone did Jack exhale. Good flying, but the relief didn't last. Saren, the Valari tech, spoke from the rear console. Picking up energy signatures from a large structure inside the cluster, definitely artificial. The holo display lit up with the shape of a spiked station embedded into an asteroid, the Krith base. Infiltration. They parked the Silver Gale in the shadow of a large rock and deployed in 2 smaller shuttles. The plan was to enter through the maintenance ducts, where the Krith's defenses would be weaker. Jack's team went first, 3 humans, 2 Valari, and himself. Althea led the second team. The duct was cramped, forcing them to crawl through. Metal tubes lit only by their helmet lamps. Every sound seemed louder in the confined space. Jack whispered into his comm. "Team 2, status?" Althea's voice came back, calm as ever. "Moving toward the central power hub. And yes, darling, I can hear you breathing heavily." Jack rolled his eyes. "It's called being careful." They reached the end of the duct and dropped silently into a dim storage room. Through the thin metal walls, they could hear the faint clicking of Krith voices. Jack signaled to his team. 2 guards moved to the door, opening it just enough for Jack to see into the hallway. Krith soldiers patrolled in pairs, their armor gleaming under red lights. The air smelled faintly of ozone and machine oil. Jack tapped his comm. "Team 2, be ready. We're about to start the party." The first clash, they moved quickly, taking down 2 patrolling Krith before alarms could sound. But as they reached the weapons control room, the base's security systems detected them. Sirens wailed and red lights flooded the corridors. "All units move," Jack barked. From the other side of the base, Althea's team was already engaging. Over the comm, Jack could hear her voice, calm but commanding. "Suppressing fire on the eastern corridor. Saren, disable the auto turrets." "Working on it," the Valari tech replied, his voice tense. Jack's team breached the weapons control room, exchanging fire with Krith guards inside. Plasma bolts hissed past, scorching walls. One of Jack's soldiers took a hit to the shoulder but stayed in the fight. Finally, they reached the main control console. Jack ripped out the access panel and began planting charges. "How long?" one of the guards asked. 2 minutes, Jack said. "Tell the princess to get ready to move." The power core while. Jack's team fought in the weapons room. Althea's group had reached the power hub, a massive chamber glowing with green energy. Saren connected his device to the control node. "I can overload the core, but it will take time." Althea glanced at the door, where the sound of heavy Krith footsteps was growing louder. "You have 1 minute." The first wave of Krith charged in, weapons blazing. Althea's royal guards met them head-on, their armor deflecting the first shots. Althea herself moved with precision, her stun rod striking at exposed joints in the Krith armor. Over comms, Jack's voice came through. "Weapons are down. How's power? Almost ready, she replied, driving her rod into another attacker. Escape. When? The charges went off in the weapons room, the base shook violently. At the same time, the power core overloaded, plunging sections of the station into darkness. "Everyone to the shuttles!" Jack shouted. The two teams fought their way back through, the corridors, the Krith in chaos around them. In the darkness, the insectoid soldiers hissed and clattered, their glowing eyes flashing in the shadows. Jack and Althera's paths crossed near the docking bay. "Nice timing," Jack said, covering her flank with a burst of plasma fire. "Of course, darling," she replied, firing her own weapon past him. They boarded the shuttles under heavy fire, launching just as the Krith base began to break apart from the chain reaction inside. Aftermath back on the Silver Gale, the crew cheered, as the distant asteroid lit up in a silent explosion. The Krith base was gone. Jack sat in the cockpit, breathing hard, helmet off. Althera stood beside him, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly in the ship's light. "That's one threat gone," Jack said. "Not all of it," she replied quietly. "The Krith still have agents, and the summit is still their target." Jack nodded. "Then we stay ready." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Jack gave her a sideways glance. "By the way, you fight better than most soldiers I've known." Althera smiled faintly. "And you are better company than most commanders I've known." "Sweetie," Jack said with a grin. "Yes, darling," she replied. And for the first time, her voice was warm without any hint of teasing. The soft hum of the Royal Starship's engines echoed in the background as Captain Daniel stood on the observation deck. Through the massive glass window, he saw the planet Valoria below, its silver oceans glittering under the twin suns. Behind him, footsteps approached, light, graceful, familiar. "Daniel," Princess Alara said gently. Her voice was warm but carried a weight he recognized. "It is time we decide." He turned to face her. She was wearing the formal gown of the Valorian royal house. Deep blue with silver patterns shaped like the constellations. Her crown shimmered faintly, but her eyes were fixed on him, not on ceremony. "I know," Daniel replied. "The council meeting is in 1 hour." It had been 2 weeks since they had returned from the dangerous expedition on the abandoned world of Thalor 9, where they had stopped the sabotage against both the Terran fleet and the Valorian kingdom. They had fought together, protected each other, and somewhere between the battles and long nights under alien skies, they had grown close, very close. But now, peace brought a new problem. Alara was still a princess, heir to a throne, tied to her people and her duty. Daniel was still a Terran officer, sworn to serve Earth and its colonies. Their paths were supposed to diverge. "Tell me the truth," she said, stepping closer. "If I asked you to stay on Valoria, what would you say?" Daniel looked away for a moment, taking in the sight of the planet. "I'd say, I want to, more than anything. But my people need me." "And my people need me," she said softly. They both fell silent. The council chamber was a grand circular hall filled with Valorian nobles and Terran ambassadors. The floor was made of polished black crystal, and the ceiling projected a living map of the galaxy. As the meeting began, the council speaker addressed them. "Princess Alara, Captain Daniel, you have both proven yourselves in service to the Alliance, but we must resolve the matter of the Joint Command proposal." The idea was simple, yet radical. Instead of separating, Daniel and Alara would be appointed as joint envoys between their two peoples. They would travel together, representing both worlds, strengthening the fragile alliance, but it was a role that came with no personal freedom. Their lives would be under constant watch, their choices bound by politics. "Do you accept?" the speaker asked. Daniel glanced at Alara. She was watching him, her expression unreadable. 1,000 thoughts ran through his mind. The laughter they shared in the corridors of the starship, the way she had saved his life by standing between him and a plasma shot, the quiet moments when neither had spoken, but both had understood. He took a deep breath. "I'll do it, if she will." Ilara smiled faintly. "Then I accept." The council chamber erupted into formal applause. That night, after all the ceremonies and speeches, they found themselves alone on the balcony of the palace. The city of Valora stretched out below, glowing with golden lights and drifting skyships. "You know," Daniel said, leaning on the railing, "this isn't exactly what I imagined for my future." "And what did you imagine?" Ilara teased. He chuckled. "A small ship, some dangerous missions, maybe a bar on Mars where I'd tell exaggerated stories about my adventures." She tilted her head. "And now?" "Now," he said, "I imagine traveling across the galaxy with you." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of the wind carried the scent of the Valorian crystal gardens. In the distance, the twin moons rose. Finally, Ilara said softly, "Do you regret it? Choosing this instead of your old life?" Daniel looked at her. "No, not even for a second." She smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes. "Then, perhaps, this is the beginning of a new story." He nodded. "Our story." The weeks that followed were a blur. Their first mission as joint envoys took them to Zerath Prime, a world famous for its stubborn independence. Convincing the Zerathians to join the alliance was not easy. Negotiations nearly collapsed twice, and a sudden pirate raid threatened everything. But together, Daniel's military instincts and Ilara's diplomatic skills turned the situation around. By the end of the mission, the Zerathians not only joined the alliance, they swore loyalty to it. That was the pattern that followed. Wherever they went, Daniel handled the dangers that required courage and quick thinking, while Ilara navigated politics and culture with elegance. The galaxy began to see them not just as leaders, but as a symbol, the human captain and the alien princess who trusted each other completely. And in quiet moments, far from the eyes of diplomats and guards, they still laughed together like they had on that first day. One night, aboard their ship between assignments, Daniel stood by the viewport staring at the stars. Ilara walked up beside him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About how big the galaxy is," he said, "and how, out of all the people in it, I ended up with you." She leaned against him. "The galaxy works in strange ways." He smiled, looking at her. "Hey, sweetie." She raised an eyebrow, amused. "Yes, darling?" They both laughed. And in that laughter, there was no politics, no duty, no titles. Just two people who had chosen each other, no matter the worlds they came from.